that's probably the best way to do it. Right, because my sister is not going to want to do half of those, and they're very expensive. So, and obviously I need the money because of Brian taking off, so that the rest of my vacation and the rest of my life isn't destroyed by him doing this stuff to me. So I'd say that's probably for the best. Um, so it will take a while. It took about a week and a half for me to get a refund, to get the price adjustment back from them. So um, I got paid yesterday. I have to go probably to the bank tomorrow, because, or I could walk down there today, and then I'll probably do Royal Beach Club and whatever I want to do at Perfect Day at Coco. Um, right. I don't know. I mean, it still seems expensive to me to do the all inclusive, like the amp it, like I said, but when it's one person, so yeah, she's not going to be with me on the second cruise. Yeah, that's a cruise by myself. And then I think what I'm going to do is book my Bahamas trip that I won. I'll have to call them tomorrow because I was married, so my last name is different. So I have till June to take it, and clearly it would be warmer, not in January, but I'm going to be in Fort Lauderdale anyway. So it makes sense to me to just take the ferry over there if it's available. It's based on availability. So that is the busy season because people are even though it's colder in the Bahamas, it's warmer than it is up here and in Canada and probably in other parts of the world. So yeah, people still, it's an escape from the freezing cold. So, and you're not going to run into a hurricane. So, I'll probably end up doing that. Just take the ferry. I'll have to change my flight back from Fort Lauderdale, which was Spirit Airlines, which was the cheap one. Yeah, that was an awesome deal. That's why I did it, even though you can't bring baggage. I would have worked it out. Like I said, I had already talked to my sister about how to do the surprise for Brian and stuff, planes, trains, and automobiles. So it ended up being a surprise for her for her birthday. But yeah, I think just the first cruise. And then, so basically, she just has to worry about transportation to and from New York, and then any excursion she wants to do in her onboard account. Okay, I already prepaid the gratuities. I'll cover the cost of that. Right. So I think that's a pretty good deal. Right. You're not paying for the cruise, you're not paying gratuities, and then it's just your onboard account and if you want excursions. So yeah, I would say Royal Caribbean made the right call. They're based on, right, because a couple of them she already just straight out said she didn't want to do. Yeah, and these are expensive excursions, so she doesn't have to do the things I planned for a 38-year-old man. Okay, so she just wants to go to the beach. So it's a trip that's free essentially, except for the train back and forth in her onboard account. So, um, and then I'll just do the Liberty one by myself. So I don't think I'll get any money back for him. Right? It's just he's a no-show. Because based on what just happened with changing this cruise to her, you don't get any money back. You can switch someone out; they'll charge you. They were kind enough not to charge me because of the circumstances. Don't make up things, by the way. Right. You just do if it's that bad, because the woman and I talked from Royal Caribbean. She goes, obviously he can't be on a cruise, and they understand that. Yeah, you can't. He can't be on a cruise with you. So it's the World Wide Web, and I explained to her the situation, if you don't mind me asking what's going on, and I explained it. Right, when you're estranged from your husband and he can't even make it through a cruise, and he's violent like that, he can't be on a cruise with you. Right, so yeah, again, because it's almighty, it would have crashed and burned on a cruise. Just, I think I'm gonna start smoking marijuana again. The snide comments. I only drink on cruises. I don't think he's kidding. He wouldn't need a drink package. He just picks up half empty things. There's no way that dude wouldn't have crashed and burned on the cruise. You would hope 7 months of sobriety, a normal person. Good morning, but no. Anyway, like I was saying on Facebook and Twitter and this, um, yeah, like the Facebook I knew was just a bunch of crap. They already started their bullshit about we removed this post for no reason whatsoever. Right. Alls I'm talking about is I posted songs and I'm talking about my cruise. Okay. So that's clearly not what the quote unquote directors, people that are mentally deranged, think I'm supposed to talk about. So I don't use Facebook. Okay. So if you're fortunate enough, at least as far as you know, not to have people so mentally deranged they think they're directing your thoughts and your speech, feel blessed. Okay, feel blessed. Okay. Because there's people that's sick. It's called narcissism. It's documented through history where people literally believe that they're directing people's lives like puppeteers. Everything you do in your life, they're controlling your thoughts, they're teaching you. So, if you don't have deranged people trying to do that with you, just consider yourself blessed because it's clearly going on, right? All of it. We're reconnecting you. Um, you're offline. Like a prompt would just continuously pop up so that it would say you're offline, like the person thinks it's teaching me. Okay, so just consider yourself lucky if you don't have that going on. The Holy Bible tells that person when your voices tell you you're the teacher, reject that. Okay. Other people do ask God for help and they listen to that stuff about mental illness. If this starts to happen, reject it. Reject it like the devil, reject it like Satan, because that's brain disease and that's not God telling you that. Right. When the voices tell you to hate Mary and smoke marijuana and this is your opportunity to take off and stuff, that's all a demented voice in your head. But again, not going to be saved. There's nothing there to save. Right? There's nothing there to save. Just probably didn't have enough brain matter to begin with. And just everything that's happened to that person, there's nothing there to be quote unquote forgiven, which means cured, treated. It's just heavy dose medication that he'll agree to take in between his bouts of violent insanity. So anyway, I think his family knows it can be difficult to hear that it's like a Michael Myers. There's nothing there. Just even trying to, it's like almost like a person that's autistic, but he should be nonverbal, but he's not. Right? There's just not a conversation to have. Even after apparently reducing the amount of just mirroring back grooming, like AI just mirroring back all this weird grooming with the weird sex comments and stuff. Even after that melted away, there's not a thing there. So, anyways, yeah, I'm sure some of it is they thought I was going to go on Facebook and start at replying Bryant Buchanan and doing and just lamenting constantly and being angry and quote unquote venting. And there's none of that. There's no need for that. So that's why they don't let me on Facebook. Um, Probably ever since I met Brian, but I noticed it after I was with Jen that when I wasn't typing in like a venting fury like that, they would start punishing me by banning me. That's what they want. Like it's an insanity of venting because of their doctrine they made up in their heads that isn't true. And it's like a horrifying doctrine because they'll try to trigger you, which means it's an excuse for tormenting people. It's bad. But anyways, it's controlled by God has them on those devices and those computers and the technology until they finally die. That's the only thing that makes sense. Suddenly I could use Facebook, and because I didn't at reply Brian Buchanan, I didn't send him a message, I didn't send him a friend request, I really didn't even talk about him much. And you can tell that I'm not like panicked and angry and crying and sad that there's no need for me to have a Facebook. I'm not going to have a Facebook like other people do to post a song, talk about my trip, talk to my friend Jerry. Right. They're not, never would they allow me to do that. Okay. And just like I said, killing the battery, making the thing say try again, um, reconnecting and stuff. It's just, you're just waiting for them to die. So, anyways, it's yeah, it's sort of like constant, constant, constant with me for 15 years as I try to mentally cope with it, right? And recoup. They don't like it when I ignore them. They'll start doing more things. In a desperation, it has to be to destroy my phone because that's why Brian and I aren't talking to each other. We're not even attempting to. It can't make sense. Okay, like from what I can, conceptualize right now as to what God is telling me about their mental state, okay, um, they couldn't do a thing that actually might have ended up being worse for me. They should have give if to be completely sadistically deranged like they are, okay, you would have gave us an apartment knowing that he would do all this and I lose my apartment and then I have that bad on my record. Okay. Because the need is so great because they won't accept what God told them about the DNA housing and the extinction. The need is so great that it has to be about denying me physical structure housing. And that's the worst thing you can do is deny someone physical housing structure and then pour out stuff to people that are in housing that I can't have and has no meaning to me. And celebrate that and display it and stuff as a coping mechanism rather than just actually trying to enjoy the rest of your time here and the rest of your lives. Um, yeah, I definitely see that going on, especially in the past year. But be right, they didn't want us to be able to be in housing and not be outside, quote unquote, suffering and stuff because that's something that they have that I don't have. It's a coping mechanism, okay, in a complete derangement of the minds. So what they ended up doing is finally I'm not gonna listen to anything this guy says anymore. He hasn't I didn't get kicked out of housing. So I still have the available to be given housing. I still have my social security hearing and I still have my vacation. When I was trying to call Royal Caribbean and change stuff, they started messing with everything I was doing because that wasn't their plan. Okay. Right. They could have stuck me with the dude in an apartment that I can't get out of because it's his apartment, just like they made my Amazon account his Amazon account. And he's totally down for that. Oh, yeah. He's totally down for being an abusive, mentally incompetent person who controls an Amazon account, controls a one bedroom apartment he got because he has brain injury. Get it? That way, I'm stuck in it like a tower. Didn't happen, isn't gonna happen. Okay, so, oh yeah, just wowza, wowza, like making people other people's concubines and other people's servants, right? Anything that seems degrading and terrible and trapping for me. Not you have independent women that do things. You only people that are allowed to be in all due respect, I'm just explaining the powers that be why you have things and I don't. The only women that are allowed to be quote unquote independent like that do not look like me. They don't look like me, they don't talk like me, they don't act like me. That's why. And some of them are probably grateful for that because they probably fathom themselves that's why they have housing and I don't. Right, and I don't mean it to be sort of mean or, conceited. It's obvious. It's obvious. Right. So, that's what's up. Right. So, anyways, that's about it. Sunday, um, hopefully a more relaxing day, than yesterday. Sometimes because people are not they did I did like, I haven't expressed things or whatever the reason is. I understand, helping a person not focus on Brian, but that's actually not what I'm focusing on. Like, last night, I had to explain it when I was on my phone. I'm talking to my friend Jerry, he's a really good friend of mine. Okay. Like, I don't mind interaction, but I'm really used to having a lot of time to myself and a lot of time to self-reflect. And I know some people don't like that. They don't like it when people are on their phones or watching the TV quietly and in their own space. Some people don't like that, right? So, it can become overwhelming. I understand the need to talk to people. It can become overwhelming though. Just a con because I noticed it last night, not my sister. When I try to talk, I can't talk. And it's just my typical life. Like I'm a constant therapist where I just sit there and listen to another person. So after a while, it's not really beneficial to me, right? So, right. It's not talking about other people, by the way. It's just um, no, because it's not all of us probably do it. All of us probably do it. We should be mindful of that when we interact with people is if all we do is talk out and every time the other person goes to talk, you keep talking and you're like over talking them. Right. Just be mindful of what you're doing, especially if you have an attitude where you don't like social media, you don't video blog, you don't journal, you're never doing that yourself. Okay. It's just different types of people. I'm not even going to say you're unhealthy because people are different. You got to do what works for you. But for me, I can't 24 hours a day sit and listen to people talking at me like I'm autistic or something. And then, you know what I'm saying and making sure that I'm actually listening to them. Okay. Right. Like I'm a loner and I kind of like it. Okay, like, that's why, sitting in the library for hours like that on my phone doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. Yeah, it can just be overwhelming with the amount of talking. Okay, so it is the holidays, eh, there's exciting and things going on, so, yeah, there's, like, a flurry of activity and stuff, and clearly people don't wanna just leave me in an apartment thinking I'm upset. I'm really not. For one, it's not like the other times. Okay. It's not like the other times. It's one of those things where you do wanna get out of something, but you don't know how to. Right, like, I think he said something to me once about leaving, or something. I go, "How would I actually do that, Brian? How would I actually do that?" Like, you're not realizing that I've tried to get away from you several times? You're not realizing that? Okay. I think other people do realize that have been along the whole time and seen what's happened, especially after June. How would I get away from you? Because I'm homeless, how would I actually get away from you? How would you get away from me? Right. Because you never should have gotten involved with me in the first place. You never should have gotten involved with me in the first place, and it's just doesn't even matter anymore because your brain I don't care what happens with your brain matter. I don't care what happens with your brain matter. Even that concept is just you still want something to be different. Like, that would be me saying I still want something to be different. I don't care about your brain matter, but you're never gonna get to the point where you understand and realize what you've done, right? You'd never be sorry about it, and what is that? What is that if you're sorry and you've changed? I just wouldn't even wanna hear anything like that. I'd probably spit in your face at this point. The time for that was after I dropped you off at Faulkner Hospital. That was the time for that, not 2 years after that. Right, just I'm being point blank honest. Yeah, that would be beyond grotesque and disgusting. Just, "Oh, and by the way, I really wanna thank you for everything because now I'm married or now I've come out and I'm gay and this is my boyfriend and I'm still sober and blah, da, blah." You just go, "What the fuck? You're disgustingly insane." Spit in the person's face and walk the fuck away. That's a fairy tale film, that's not real life that anyone would ever react in that manner. I'm not a fucking AA sponsor. Yeah, that is, like, gruesome that anyone would ever think that. The time for that was after Faulkner Hospital because we barely spent any time together. Right, we didn't have sexual that was before, that was after Plymouth, that's why I said even that was gross. There shouldn't have been any sexual contact at that point, but then all of a sudden, when you're married, there's no sexual contact. Right, because when you're sober, you don't want anything to do with me, so you need to stay the fuck away from me. Right, I'm not interested in being your caretaker, and then I can't do anything I wanna do. Get it? I'm on a limited clock myself, and the last 15 years have been awful. I spent a long time trying to get out of a bad marriage so that I could have a fucking life. It goes way beyond having another boyfriend and having another husband. It goes way beyond that. That type of caretaking, I can't even let you out of my sight for 5 minutes. No, thanks. There are people who have children that they're stuck with like that because they're dependent on their Social Security. That's the straight point fact, and it's because it's their child, they just in their heart can't cut it and stop talking to them. I don't have that. I'm blessed in that way. I'm blessed in that way. My father is dead. We never had a relationship. My mother is passing away. She's being cared for by my sister. Someone took all of my children. They're all adults. I'm not responsible for them regardless, okay? And then this person is not a husband. I did never said I was going to be a person's caretaker in August of 2024. Okay. Right. You just go, "Hell the fuck no." Right. So I'm free. I'm never going to have that in my life. I'm never going to agree to be someone's caretaker, whether I never get housing or not. I'm not a fucking slave. There are people that go to school to be nurses. Uh, what do they call them? It's like a nurse's assistant. Okay. They get paid to do that. Not you make a literal slave out of a fucking homeless woman because she's pretty. Okay, that's why you still have a world. That's why people go to school. They get certificates. They become social workers. Right. They can run a halfway house. They can run a rooming house for brain injury. They get paid. They become Brian. They help Brian get Social Security because they're not going to give him Social Security if he's married. Okay, they're not going to do it because then I'm not homeless. It's exactly what I said. It's not contradictory. It's not contradictory. They thought it was a real relationship, that's why they wouldn't do it. If they understood that that would become a living hell for me, they would have done it. Okay? That's why I was in a house with people for years and years and years because that was not good for me. That's why they allowed it. They thought it was a real relationship and Brian could change. Oh my god, 5 months, maybe they would have never given us housing together because of that. If they knew the truth, I'd already be in an apartment with him, stuck with him eternally now until I died or he finally died. Okay, so that's exactly what just happened. There's not a possible way to saddle me to another person now. Just none of um if I was ever gonna have a romantic relationship, I don't believe any Okay, that should finally decline it. It's oh, it's candy. Hold on. Now the phone's gonna shut down. Good lord.